Brian Pillman is now we think Lexis King. He's changed his name, but the thing is, in the vignette that we watched today, it only says that he's changing his surname to King. Now, Brian Pillman Jr., who was until recently a mainstay of the AEW Witness Protection Program, officially signed with AEW in late August. A couple of brief vignettes of Pillman watching old video of his dad wrestling and some Cincinnati Bengals footage aired. And then this past Tuesday, Pillman's vignette that he was aired that he was denouncing his dead father's name and going by the name something King. But we're assuming Lexis King because that was what was trademarked by WWE recently. The quote is, "When they see this face, I don't want them to think about my dead father. I want them to think about me. I'm nobody's junior, and from this day forward, I'm going to take on the last name of the real man who raised me, the real father figure in my life, and his name was King, and now so is mine." And I was thinking the only thing that would have made this better is if Christian Cage then popped up and said, "Did somebody say dead dad?" Because, man, he loves to point out a dead dad, does old Christian Cage. But, yeah, Brian Pillman.
I love the way they presented him first. Now I have interest in him. See, you're talking about new fans here. So, of course, when you talk about your dad was a wrestler, a lot of these new fans, they won't go on a computer and research Brian Pillman. But I think they will now, because he's laid out a little story. My name is not Pillman, Lexis King, and he needs to get the credit for being my real father. And yeah, if Christian had hopped out, and they may still do that, who knows? But I think that they expose him in a way. I love those vignettes like that because they're short. It's like a minute. To the point. He tells the story. Now I'm looking. I got a taste of him. I like what I saw. I don't know who came up with that, but it's very good. I used to do it. I used to do that in Puerto Rico all the time. You don't beat him to death right off let him just come in like out of the blue. Now, the smart fans have heard that he's coming, so they're looking for it. So we get a shot of the back of his head, and the announcer's talking unpredictable, psychopath, and you see all those crazy faces that Brian Pillman used to make. And then he came in and added to it. Then it was over. Now I'm interested in how this progresses, because they got a story, they got history, they got a lot of. How much video of Brian Pillman could they use on AEW without being in violation?
NXT.
I'm saying no, but Brian Pillman, they showed some clips of him. How much could they use without being in violation of the antitrust laws or whatever?
Oh, you mean NXT could use footage from AEW?
AEW. That's not. I'm saying, yeah, NXT could use some footage of Brian Pillman from, say, yeah.
None. No, that wouldn't happen unless they find something of Brian Pillman from the Indies, which he did work some Indies, but I think he may have been in MLW as well.
They could show still photos, couldn't they?
Yeah. I suspect so, if AEW releases them, but I think they've got their own in-house photographers like WWE has, so they won't give them permission. So I think really WWE is stuck with Brian Pillman Sr. footage. They've got all the footage on him. But as far as wrestling Brian Pillman Jr., Lexis King, very little out there unless he was on some random indies that they could maybe borrow off. So basically they'll just have to make their own history, which WWE is very, very good at.
Well, I like the vignette. They did show some still photos of Brian Pillman. They can make that work because he was unpredictable. That is not just a gimmick. That was Brian. Because I used to work with him in WCW, and he was very, very good. And a good football player, too. So I'm looking forward to see how it progresses. and how far they'll take it. Because Brian Pillman Jr., you can't call him that anymore. Lexis King. Now, who is this guy? Now not only have they got me interested in the Lexis King, I'm interested in who his father is. Will his father be a wrestler, or can he wrestle? Is he what is he? So they got me two ways there. I do like that.
Brian Pillman Jr.'s real name is in fact Brian Pillman Jr. as well. Mm-hmm. So a couple more things, right? So Lexis is from his sister Alexis, who for a brief period was a valet called Sexy Lexi Pillman, who died in what was described as a freaky car accident in 2009, but there's not really any more information on that.
Sexy Lexi, did she work for TNA?
She may have been like a ring card girl or something like that. She may have been in there very briefly.
Yeah, I heard that. I've heard the name. I don't know whether I've ever met her or not.
The other thing I want to make mention of, do you think the fans will react to, I mean, you've seen the vignette, it's quite dark brooding, bitterness at his father, that kind of, or his biological father, that kind of thing, but do you think the fans will react to him as a good guy or a bad guy?
Oh, I think he's got to be a heel. I think. I mean, because he needs to come in and raise hell. Beat some of their... He needs to be a disruptor. And if they can tell... I think they can tell a great story with this kid. See, a lot of them, I hope they know how privileged they are to be able to enter NXT with some pros in charge. You're not really working for writers who don't really know what they want to do with you. They need to be told what to write, how to present this guy as the way they want to present it. I think he's a psychopath too. And I think you'll get a lot of face shots of him. And then is this Mr. King, the fatherly figure, is he coming in right away, or will he appear? They can always shoot for that, and we don't know who he is. And that could be a big surprise later on. I think they're going to wait before they show him. I would.
Tell me what you think of this from a booking perspective from me.
Let's say I like it.
He's a bad. You're an easy audience, is what I like about you. He's a bad guy in NXT for however long it is. He's doing the bad people, the bad person thing. But when he eventually turns good guy, that it could be like a wrestling with his own conscience and his own, second generation ness. And then eventually he comes out and does something very good and then realizes who he is and says, I am not Lexis King, I am in fact Brian Pillman Jr. And then the crowd goes, wah! And then you've got almost a brand new character with a great backstory as well to sort of go.
Who owns the name Brian Pillman Jr.?
Well, he does. He is that.
So he can use that.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Well, that's a good jumping off place there. I'd get him over as a heel first. I'd get him over just being a psycho. It doesn't matter if he pins him. I'd have him go there and beat the hell out of the announcers. Spend him. He's a disruptor. He don't give a crap. Or let him go into those stands after a fan that does something to him, and they pull him off. I mean, this guy here is, I think he's he can, I hate the word game changer. How many times you heard that? And how the score stays the same, or it gets less.
Didn't someone do like a tally up of how many times AEW had called someone a game changer, and it was in the 30s?
I bet it's more than that. if they're a game changer. But here's a guy that you could almost, if they make him normal, which I don't think they will, what's the story on him? He was raised by a psychotic dad. Or he comes from a weird family. And people kind of thought he was a babyface, but yet they gravitated to him because he has a chemistry that gathers fans. And if you just watch him, if I'm a fan, I'm thinking, wow, there's something up with this guy. But they never let you in on it because I don't think creative was that was that far advanced in those days. It was Ole Anderson was the booker, and I never knew who the damn other people were. Jody Hamilton worked the GOAT position, but I don't know how many. I don't even know who wrote the TV for WCW.
Oh, it changed constantly. I think.
Who was the guy who wrote the thing about Jim Ross? Remember him? He was Vince Russo's friend.
Ed Ferrara.